I'm going to introduce you to somebody who I think is very frank, and he's going to show you some things in polls that I'm very excited for you to see. It should give you an awful lot of confidence. His name is John Cardillo. He's the president and CEO of SciID. This is a company that specializes in actionable social media intelligence and analytics. And John, you called 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. We talked to each other.
Yeah.
And basically, without naming names or anything else, you said to me, I'm doing some polling for the GOP, and they want me to change things to try to change the outcome. Correct? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. There are certain things that if we skew what we do a certain way, the outcome will
predict what they want.
Predict what they want.
Right.
Which is
How did you do on Virginia yesterday?
We were within a point.
You were within
of the
a point.
outcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way on God's green earth that TheBlaze has special magic powers that we figured out that this guy who took 5 points off the table was not a libertarian? He was a prop or a shill for Terry McAuliffe in the White House.
No. This is something that your first-year investigator should be able, or opposition research guy should find in 5 minutes.
Everybody on the GOP side should be fired for not bringing
anybody in opposition research there should be fired today.
And the media today is saying that this proves that the Tea Party is dead. Would you show me some information here on how much of a lie that is?
It's quite the contrary.
Okay.
I think, if anything, it shows us that it's alive and well.
Okay, before you show me the actual stats and everything, explain what the difference is between somebody who's like, okay, Mr. Beck, can you tell me what is the difference between that and what you do?
All right, so that's a traditional poll.
Yep.
And that's somebody's calling you up with canned questions that are designed to elicit certain response from you to fit an agenda.
And it's all in the way you phrase the question and everything else.
And the sample you pick, et cetera, et cetera. What we do, you have to look at what social media analytics is just you're in a big party and you're listening to every click, chatting about things they care about or of interest to them they're engaged in a very frank, casual way.
Much better research because you are a fly on the wall and you're just listening to what people are actually saying.
From the heart.
From the heart.
Yep.
Okay, and so the research you're going to show is the independent, right?
Yes.
There's the diehard people that could see, John McCain snuffing out old people with a pillow, and they'll be like, oh no, but he's GOP and he's great. And somebody that show Barack Obama robbing a bank and he's just trying to help people.
Exactly, yeah.
You're just going for, how much is that in the middle?
We like to say that 4 to 7% decide, and Virginia bears that out, right? They said, I think I read 90%, 9 out of 10 Democrats voted for McAuliffe, and 8 out of 10 Republicans voted for Cuccinelli.
Okay.
So the middle decided that, and that's who we look at.
Okay. So show me now what you have found in your research. First of all, let's look at the GOP. I guess we're starting here, third party. Go ahead, you just bring them up, Tiffany. Okay, here you go, GOP.
Okay, so basically, non-party affiliated voters see the current GOP, the Rhino, we call the Republican in name only GOP, the John McCain's, the Mitch McConnell's, 68% negatively.
Okay, now how do you know? Because what the rhinos will say is, no, they don't like the fact that we're not getting along and we're not working together and that we're trying to shut down the government, these crazy Tea Party people. They use that same poll and say, no, that you're reading it wrong. If they would all be more like John McCain, we would be winning.
We didn't poll anybody. We didn't ask anybody questions. We were, as you say, flies on the wall. We looked at about 1 million non-party affiliated voters from 7 different regions in the U.S. And we didn't design any type of monitoring to elicit a response.
What gives you the feeling that these are people that are more with Ted Cruz than with John McCain?
The content of their posts, their tweets. They very clearly indicate what they like and don't like.
Okay. Show me some more here.
So,
go ahead, next one. The Tea Party and third party.
Okay, so this one is important to look at. Actually, third party should probably even be first. What that's saying is that 53% of these non-party affiliated voters like the concept of a third party. Now, when you look at Tea Party, it's not that 61% don't like the Tea Party. You have to kind of look at that as Yankee fans looking at the Yankees and critiquing their performance, telling them how they can win the World Series. So these are people that would really like to see the Tea Party succeed. They're critiquing the Tea Party's execution, which they think is poor. They feel there's no central command and control. The three biggest topics to them, the most important topics to them are no effective command and control, no effective fundraising mechanism, most importantly, no effective messaging mechanism. There's no central messaging and PR infrastructure in the Tea Party to beat back the mainstream media narrative.
You don't know who the Tea Party. You could get somebody.
Exactly.
Somebody was who the press is saying today is a Tea Party guy, and he is a Tea Party guy. But his big thing in the campaign that he lost yesterday was birth certificate. I don't care about the damn birth certificate anymore.
Exactly.
Could we worry about the Constitution and the spending and everything else?
That's right. And when he did, he gained a ton of ground in a very short time. Well, I'm talking about when
in Virginia.
In Virginia.
When he stopped talking about social issues?
Social issues. He gained a ton of ground. When he went to the Constitution, Cuccinelli, and he started talking about Obamacare being bad for America and why it was unconstitutional, he picked up almost a double-digit point gain in a couple of weeks. And he should have gone all the way, but I'm sure we'll get into
any
why.
idea or any doubt in your mind that the GOP abandoned him and he could have won had they stuck with him?
Well, I think they clearly did, and that proof is in the dollar spend.
Yeah.
McAuliffe wound up at 15 million more.
Yeah.
And a ton more television, which is what wins your election.
Okay. Next one. Ted Cruz. This is amazing because nowhere in the mainstream media are you seeing this.
Yeah, you're not, and people love him. They just feel even the people that don't like him respect him. In that 34%, they say, hey, look, we oppose everything Ted Cruz supports, but we respect the guy's honesty. At least he lets you know who he is. And his supporters just simply love the guy.
So what does that tell you?
It tells me the country's moving right. It tells me that the John McCains, the Mitch McConnells, the compromised politicians are perceived as big government statists, that the voters really aren't distinguishing them. They're saying John McCain and Harry Reid is the same guy on a couple of different issues, but essentially their life's going to be the same under either one of those guys in leadership.
People have woken up. They know.
I think they have.
They know.
Yeah.
So also on this, does this tell you anything at all about? Should it tell you anything about the GOP or tell the GOP we should be going in another direction? And does it tell you that the GOP could implode? I think that we are possibly. I talked to Dan Rather last night. He was sitting on the set, and we were sitting here looking at that old TV camera. And I said, "So Dan, you've been around for a while. What do you think's coming?" And he said, "I think trouble's coming." And he said, "And I think also politically, there's a third party coming." And I said, "Well, I think more the Whig Party, where it just implodes and you turn around." And he didn't see that. Do you think that that's a possibility? I
think if they stay on the course they're on, it's a real possibility, because one of the single most predominant threads I see within the numbers for the GOP is defund the GOP. Hashtag defund the GOP. When your donors leave, you implode. If you can't afford to stay afloat, your business goes out of business.
So tell me about that. When your people when the GOP saw defund, I mean, that's something that I said on the radio one day out of frustration. I said, just hashtag defund the GOP.
It got traction.
Yeah, it got real traction. Yeah. They don't like me too much. I don't know if you know that yet.
Not going to like me too much.
Yeah. So they're in real serious trouble.
Yeah, I think, and it's real serious trouble, because those non-party affiliated voters tend to also be your grassroots people when they like you. They're your boots on the ground.
Right.
You need them. That's how you win. And if they stop donating, and if they stop galvanizing other voters to get out to the polls for you, you're in real trouble.
Okay. These are leaders of the GOP.
Yeah, they are. And the reason that I picked these four is these are the four most spoken about when we look at the GOP as a whole. And so John Boehner's an interesting guy. He goes as the GOP goes. His numbers are always within plus or minus 5 of the party itself. The general sentiment, that's a negative, by the way, in the black. And the general sentiment with non-party affiliated voters on John Boehner is they just don't trust him. They hear what he says on a podium, and when he gets behind closed doors, especially with the president, who they think he's completely enamored with, that he's not going to stand his ground.
I think that's exactly how I feel. John McCain?
John McCain is basically, the sentiment with John McCain is just switch parties already.
Is he imploding?
I think John McCain's not just imploded, he's lost a lot of respect from voters who forgave some of his
Because of his
positions
war
because of
here.
his history. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mitch McConnell?
Mitch McConnell is perceived as the same guy as Harry Reid.
I have heard that he might even lose, even if he wins the primary, that they believe he is so weak that he might lose to a Democrat because he's interchangeable.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. We're seeing, especially in Kentucky,
Lindsey Graham, is he beatable?
Lindsey Graham's beatable, but the interesting thing is Lindsey Graham his number was hanging around as negative McCain and McConnell, and Lindsey Graham got a bump when he pressed on blocking nominees because of Benghazi stalls.
He's so bad on everything else.
He's bad on everything, but people are forgiving. They want leadership. There's a drought of leadership. They're begging for it. So when somebody already in the job says, hey, you know what, I'm going to give you a little of what you want, the voters gravitate to that.
Is there anything else here? What's next? What's the next slide? Second Amendment.
My favorite.
64% with independents.
64% with independents. Actually, probably a little bit higher because the negative sentiments have quite a bit to do with individual issues within the Second Amendment. So there are people that are pro-Second Amendment but might be on the fence about the Class 3 assault of fully automatic weapons.
Okay, let me go
like
one more. Give me debt ceiling increase. Non-party affiliated voters, debt ceiling increase, 82%.
Yeah,
negative.
they don't want it. And it's very simplistic why. This is not an intellectual argument. Don't spend money you don't have, and the president should never have the authority to circumvent Congress and spend more money.